Thank you for joining us. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Molina's guest today is Omar Blanco. Omar, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, and so you're a candidate for State Representative District 115.
Yes, sir.
The big question is, before we get to your background, is why?
Well, since I was a small child, my grandmother used to tell me, you're going to be president one day. And it wasn't because I maybe had good hair. I used to.
You do, actually.
I used to love my grandmother used to do my hair. But she says it's how you care for people. And I think that's naturally what's driven me in life. I've always enjoyed helping others. I often feel that helping others is probably the most healing for your soul, right? I mean, in the fire service, and I've been a captain now with Miami-Dade, and I've been on 20 plus years. I find that what we do every day in our profession is probably some of the most incredible things that one person could do is just help another. And so that really is how I think I ended up here, to be quite honest.
Certainly in the first responders out in the street business, firemen seem to be more welcome than police, because police have two roles. They give you a ticket,
Right.
all right, and to help you.
Yeah.
But in the fire department, you're there to help people in some of their worst moments.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that like when you're out on a call and these people, they're really in desperate shape, and you're the first guy out there, your team is out there?
So it's interesting. Talking about that after the fact is always one that kind of, it catches your ear in a moment, because it's such an honor, right, to go to the community and help people at their time of need. But in their time of need, I am the most, and the great men and women that I work for are the most focused individuals. I mean, they are, whether someone's in cardiac arrest, whether someone's having a medical emergency where seconds matter, if they're trapped in a vehicle, if their home is on fire, their pets are trapped, whatever the situation that we approach, we have no time to really, think about what it is we're doing, just focused on completing the task. Because seconds count, you've got to be able to block that emotion. As one firefighter, one of our guys so eloquently wrote during Surfside, there was a T-shirt he put up. They put one of our shirts on, and he goes, "We feel your pain. We are suffering just as much as you do. We just can't show it yet because we have a job to do." And I think that kind of was one of those aha moments for me that really was how I best describe our job. We are, we're human beings. We're your neighbors. We're your, kids' baseball coaches. We're in the community. And I think oftentimes people don't understand that at those moments, you're focused. You've got to avoid distractions. You are focused on that patient, that scene, the safety and well-being of others, and making sure the team is able to complete the task at hand.
So since you brought up about the mental health, right? Being that you were at Surfside almost every day, and you were at that point, you were the president of the Firefighters Association.
No, that was after my presidency,
Okay.
But I was there as a member of the Urban Search and Rescue Team.
So there you are, realizing the trauma that's occurring, but also recognizing yourself as, this is happening to me. I haven't yet processed it, but it's happening.
Right.
So, and you talked about giving. And when your grandmother said you're a giver, you're able to do that. So there you are, giving everything, and not just to help them. You realize you're giving part of you inside that's going to pay a consequence of some sort. So what was that like for you every day when you had to deliver more bad news and more bad news for the families and for you and your psyche and your team?
So, as I mentioned just a moment ago, I think we're still focused on the task at hand, right? It's almost absorbed but processed aside, right? If I could share another story, my dad is a doctor, right? He was at 12, early in my life, I was a volunteer at Kendall Regional Hospital. My dad was a resident there, and he was doing cardiac arrest. There was a cardiac arrest patient that came in, and he was the doctor running the scene. And, he was talking to guys, and they were kind of like very focused. It was very impressive. But at one point, after it was done, he put his arm around somebody. They laughed about something. And I kind of was taken aback. I said, "Hey, Dad, why did you laugh?" And he says, "Omar," he says, "it is the toughest thing to do what we do. But we have to, afterwards, express the gratitude and show a little a human aspect of this with everybody in the scene, because if we every time someone didn't make it, if we were to take it to the depths of our soul, it would tear us apart. So I think there is on the mental health side of things, there are some calls that stick with you forever. And believe me, after 20 years, there's that list of calls that exactly every time you drive by that corner, you think of the two kids that crashed their car, hit a pole. You think of the family that lost their loved one, a young child, the pool, whatever the situation is. So I think a lot of those things are not always easy to deal with, but some of that we have to register, process, and then we have to move on, because the next call could be minutes away.
Yes. So, and we know there are people throughout the state of Florida that are hurting pretty badly. Mm-hmm. And as far as what it's costing nowadays for their insurance, mm-hmm. and we know that there was a condo crisis back with Surfside. So here it is now, years later.
Correct.
And this next set of crises is in the works right now.
Yes.
So, and with all the new HOA fees and the cost of insurance and all these things that are really there, and we care a lot about our people that are here. And I think the governor said, listen, we need to do something. I don't know what the something is,
right,
but if nothing gets done and you get into office, what would you like to see happen to help the literally tens of thousands of people that are going to be financially hurt because they're not prepared for this money that they have to pay in advance for future repairs on condos?
Well, I think the burden always falls back on us, the community. And that, to me, is the first place we need to not point to. People want to balance budgets on the American people. I mean, as a firefighter, how many years did I have to worry that our ability to provide 911 service was a budget item that would get cut or because of whatever reason?
You must have been scratching your head that whole time. Am I really hearing this argument over whether we can get 3 new firemen?
Yeah. It is astounding. But I think that's it, right? I think the beauty of what I think I bring to the table in my experiences, as I mentioned early on, I'm in the business of life and death, right? Where seconds count. I can't get avoided by the distractions. And I think after 20 years, and even for those that have just gone on, you learn quickly to focus on the issue at hand and not allow the emotion to overcome the logic and what's best for the community. Listen, the voters vote for who they want to represent them, and my goal is to be a voice for them. So whatever the situation may be with condo prices and with insurance rates, I pay the same insurance rates that everybody pays. I was in a group yesterday where they were it was like the mayors were meeting to talk about what we're going to do about insurance. And I think that has to be there has to be a very aggressive approach, because we are bleeding financially. Our abilities to survive, our kids to be able to raise a family in the future is coming to a stance where I think there is a reason to be very concerned. So I believe that with the condo crisis, with homeowners insurance, with the ability to keep our neighborhoods, I think that's important to the future of our community. And listen, I don't want to, the beautiful cities that I would represent, Palmetto Bay, Pinecrest, Cutler Bay, Westchester, the Falls. I don't want these places to become a New York City skyscraper. I want it to remain a community where you can walk your dog safely. Because I'll tell you, after knocking thousands of homes, I have cars racing by me all the time in regular homes. So I do believe that we've got to sit here and be bold and say, hey, listen, enough is enough. The taxpayer, the homeowner, the resident of our community is not going to be burdened by maybe some bad decisions or an ability to think of the foresight of things where they're going to come, where the foresight of where things will be 10 to 20 years from now. If you got to replace your roof, you don't think about the roof replacement the day the roof has to be replaced. You should think about it 20, 30 years ahead of time so that you have that. And I think that's where we've got to start governing. It's not term limits brings some good and some bad, and some of it is a short-term process. I think we've got to think about where we're going to be 20 and 30 years ahead. And if we're not thinking about that now, making the right decisions, I think we won't do our due diligence and be the responsible folks that we need to be for our kids and their kids.
Yeah, let's talk about public education. And we know that when people buy, they location. Yes. And a lot of it has to do with the schools that are in the neighborhoods. And a lot of our cities have great schools, whether they're public or private. Mm-hmm. But public schools have been taking a hit, for about 10 or 15 years. And recently they've been getting hammered with a lot of people going into other than public schools.
Right.
And so what's your thought about that and how there can be some balance?
Well, I think I bring a great perspective to this conversation. I'll tell you why. I'm married to a school teacher, right? My wife's been a teacher for about 18 years now, maybe 19 in Miami-Dade Public School. Her school's actually in the district. Shout out to my media specialist over at Coral Reef Elementary School in the district. But I'll tell you, I do have concern about the education. One of the things that I think school taught us in our times was about accountability, consequences, learning our history, because if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it, that old saying. But I really believe that the challenges, and my wife has remained true to the public school system because she believes that this is what our future needs, is our kids to be educated and our kids to continue to get a quality education. And I believe that, making sure that we focus on, mental health at an early age, that we focus on the relationship with the parent, right? I think there's an issue there where some parents, we're working folks, right? We're paying more money for tax, more money insurance. We're so busy working, we don't have time to focus on our kids' education. I think that there is a lot that could be done to help the parents, help the community, help the small schools. You got Howard Drive, Palmetto Bay, Pinecrest, not Palmetto, Pinecrest Elementary in the district. You have Killian High School in the district. Great schools that historically been, Killian has been a great school for many, many years. And you see that their enrollment has dropped. So we've got to make sure that we're continuing to invest not only in our teachers, but in our ability for our teachers to do what they do best.
And we understand that education in public schools may shift a little bit. The one on Sunset Drive, Sunset High, years ago there were 4,100 or 4,500 students. Yeah. I understand there's 12 or 1,500 students.
Is that crazy? Is that crazy? I learned this recently, by the way.
And it was like, oh my God! So they changed the curriculum, and that's fine and dandy as long as the kids can get an education, and so they can figure out what they want to do. Right. In this case, I think I've read it's a STEM science, whatever it is, engineering, mechanics, and they teach the kids actually how to do it.
Right. Well, didn't they do that with us? I mean, I had mechanics when I was in junior high.
And so is this brand new thing? But in any case, so they lost 2,000 students and went other places, right? And that's with Miami-Dade County growing. So that's either competition or people say, I don't want to go there anymore. So we know that the type of education, when it's being taught, is very, very important. And we see it shifting. I see some of the reports that come back where a lot of employers say, listen, we don't care about the degree. What we care about is can they do what we need to have them do? Interesting. All right, whatever that is. And if they need a degree for that, that's fine. But can they still do what we need and want them to do? And we know with social media and tech stuff, you don't have to have your master's in that, but you have to master your skill, whatever that happens to be.
Well, what about traditional education, right? Yes. Like we don't teach cursive anymore in schools. Like there are things that have been taken out of the education system that I do believe that there are some traditional issues that need to, traditional subjects that need to be brought back to the schools. And I think that is kind of where we're maybe going wrong. I mean, you talked about technology with AI. Do you have to write a paper anymore? I mean, can't AI just write it for you? I mean, that's got to be a concern.
There's some truth to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see it every day. And with social media, like that is not, that is a pastime, not an educational feed, right? So I do think that that's where as a community, I think that's what's happening. People are concerned. Parents are concerned that their kids are not getting a good education and they're seeking education outside their normal means, whether it be homeschool, whether it be charter schools, whether it be private schools, and not the traditional public school. That's why we have that. And I think there's where we've got to look to see what's going on. Schools are not political, should not be politicized. School should be education, and I think that is where some of the frustrations with parents are that we've got to address. And supporting our teachers is certainly somewhere I think we.
It is pretty amazing that people that make the biggest impact on society start when they're in little kids like this, and we just deprive the teachers of basic necessities, and paying them so we know they want to do it, right? But what can we do so they can afford to do it and have a passion?
My wife told me this morning we had this conversation. She goes, well, they don't give us staples and pens? I go, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, no, the school no longer supplies those things. Like,
and you have to get it from the parents.
Copy paper, you got to get it from the parents. I don't understand. That doesn't make that does. I mean, listen, and here's the problem: is I hate to put myself in a bubble, right? Whatever issue I'm looking at, I want to understand all sides, whether we agree or disagree, because I think having that conversation opens people's eyes to what really is happening. And for me to just to think that if a teacher does not have access to the tools they need to teach our children, I think that's a failure on us as a community. We've got to be able to step up, make sure they've got what they need to teach
Let's
our
talk
children.
about access to quality healthcare for the underserved and the underprivileged. Typically, that would mean in Miami-Dade County, people of color, and we see that, throughout the nation. But here, I'm a little more connected to it. What is it though we can do from the state level to see that the healthcare is available for people that can access it, and then how are we going to teach them how to get to it? I know that during the pandemic, the CHI went and got buses, and they took the COVID shots and went out in the community. They went to where they hang out and had a conversation with them. They didn't be able to drive anywhere. They didn't have to have the family there. They could if they wanted to.
Right.
And they reached out, and it made a big difference. And it certainly impacted me about what we can do, for healthcare. And in South Miami, the South Miami Children's Center is run by Dr. Tina Carroll Scott. This is a shout out for her. She gave up her pediatric practice 15 years ago in Bal Harbor, came here to serve the underserved, and she's done a great job.
That's awesome.
So she is, and people that live in the city of South Miami get special care because of that setup. What do you think that the state could do so that healthcare is more accessible?
Listen, you're talking to a firefighter paramedic.
Yes.
I run 911 calls for a living.
Yep.
I'm on shift tomorrow, 24 hours. There's a responsibility on all ends of this. We can keep saying government has to fix it, but I think we have to have a conversation, educational conversation. You're talking to a guy who worked logistics during COVID on making sure that the vaccine was available to all areas of the community.
And we thank you for that.
Absolutely, and it's an honor to do. But I think when people say, well, it's not accessible to me, I don't. I think there's also responsibility to do that. Just like voting, we have our early voting, and you know this. Well, it starts October 21st for November 5th, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 15 days, okay, and election day. I mean, I was a kid when my dad went to vote, and we stood in line for 3 hours just to be able to vote on election day. We keep opening up opportunities, but yet there's still the complaint that it's not enough. When would that be enough? When is, and listen, I run 911 calls. I run 911 calls with people that use 911 as a system of healthcare because they can't get to their doctor. See, that's the real problem. If I've got to wait 2 months to get a doctor, then am I efficiently using a healthcare system? The answer is no. Nobody should have to wait 2 months. Why is it that, and it's a philosophy I'm borrowing from my process on the fire department. A football player can get hurt on a football game and see a doctor within minutes, right? That doctor's worth money, time, and effort. Yeah. Firefighter gets hurt, police officer gets hurt, people that are public safety serving, it could take weeks before they get the right care. And sometimes that right care isn't efficient enough. The people in our community are having to wait too long to see a doctor.
There's a commercial. One of the hospitals said, same day or next day service. Yeah. Great. That's what we need. And they have to do something, meaning the healthcare entity has to do something to get it so that when we think we need healthcare, you're reminded of that. So here we are with your first responders, all right? They have insurance, and for it to take weeks, all right, it's terrible.
It is.
Because of the stress on besides the patient,
right? The
stress on the family, all right, and the stress on the employer, stress on that business, and the stress on the community.
What about the stress on the doctor? Let me ask you a question. If you went to visit 2 doctors and one doctor said to you, Mike, how you doing? You look good. Hey, let me take your blood pressure. You're good, man. Keep taking this medicine. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Or if the doctor sits down and goes, let's go over your labs. Hey, how are you feeling? What's different in your life? Tell me a little bit. How's your diet? What are you eating? Like, there's a whole encompassing piece that's missing. I'd rather go to doctor number 2 than doctor number 1. But we are in a situation where number of patients people see is determines.
I've heard reports of some doctors having several thousand patients.
Absolutely. And well, here's the thing is, if you can build a practice that can absorb that amount, But when you're having to wait 2 months for a doctor and then wait 2 hours in the waiting room for the doctor because the system is wrong. But here it is. It's not a one quick fix. It's not a one quick fix. We have to start, we need to start identifying what the issues are. If you've got a pain in your leg for over 2 weeks and you call 911, we're there. We are proud to be able to be there for you. But you shouldn't have waited 2 weeks. You shouldn't have had to call 911. You should have been able to make a doctor's appointment. And if we show up there and you say, hey, why did you call us after 2 weeks? You should have called us sooner. Well, I made an appointment with my doctor for 3 weeks from now, for 4 weeks since the day of the appointment, but I couldn't take the pain anymore. And now we got to go to the emergency room and use that system. Listen, the ERs here are great. The nurses are great. But I do think there's an issue with access to health care. And I don't say this is. I can only imagine it's more difficult for some of our communities that don't have the resources. But this is difficult for everybody. If I want to make an appointment with a doctor, I've got to wait maybe.
We were helping a guy who couldn't read. He was having a problem. We sent him to the dentist.
He couldn't what? I'm sorry.
He
couldn't eat. You said
he couldn't eat.
Okay.
So we sent him to the dentist. And said, I don't like what I'm seeing here.
Mm-hmm.
So we started him in the cycle of the doctors. He had Medicare, whatever it is. No, I'm not the guy. You have to go to a cancer surgical guy, not just Eventually, it took so long between his fear and the delay, in a week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever. By the time they got to him, they took out this much of his jaw.
Really?
And then eventually he died in the nursing home. He just said, I got to get out of here. He did. He just went out on his back instead of on his feet.
How many people don't go to the hospital because they're afraid of being diagnosed with something? I mean, it's a real. That's
real.
That is very real. Sometimes I'll tell you what. When I was president of the firefighters here, I negotiated for our firefighters to get ultrasounds, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't know if you know the history, but. I fought for firefighter cancer coverage. We were one of 2 states in the country that did not have cancer coverage for firefighters of any form. So we had firefighters that would, throughout the state of Florida, that would get cancer after years of service. And firefighter cancer is usually a cancer that most people don't get. It's a very strange form of cancer. And they didn't have any means to be tested as to what are some of the chemicals that they might have interacted with throughout their career, whatever the case may be. And so what happens is, we were able to get that cancer, some form of cancer coverage done. Thank you to Senator Flores, Governor DeSantis, who signed the bill, and it was a bipartisan issue. But the problem is that, and I'm sorry, what was your question again? I kind of went
off.
On
to the next thing.
I'm sorry. I go on a tangent once in a while. I apologize, but
that's right. So it's obviously care. You chose a life's work in caring for other people.
Yeah.
And you understand what your empathy button is right there, all right? And that you spend a lot of time caring for other people. And even when you went in and you fought for cancer care, really says, I care about these people and we deserve it because we've given our lives, to this. So the election's coming up within, actually early voting starts very shortly.
Yes.
The last day to vote is November 5th.
Yes,
right?
Election day.
That's the last day. That's not the first day. That is the last day.
That's correct.
My suggestion for everybody is don't wait for the last day.
Don't.
The first day it's available, go out. You can go to any ballot point and go vote. You can do absentee ballot because you never know what's going to happen on voting day. You could be sick. It could be raining
storm,
like
hurricane.
Crazy,
right? We got a hurricane hitting the Pensacola area.
So we never know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But let's say you get elected and you go, okay, you're in office. So what are some of the things you'd like to start right off the bat?
Well, I'll tell you, public safety for me is important. I think in my line of work, I see a lot of the issues that where lives can be saved. And this is just one area, but boater safety. There are a lot of accidents out there on the water, and our ability to have services out there. The luxury of getting into a medical emergency outside on the sidewalk is 911 will be there within 5 minutes or so. When you're out in the water, it's a whole different animal. And then so I think that's important. Making sure our boating community is educated, knows about the risk of the things that could happen. But on the flip side of that, I think the most important thing is property insurance. Property insurance is absolutely out of control. I proposed at the federal level that we find ways to make sure that that we're not paying the burden down here in South Florida or even Florida because of, everybody every year. I mean, I think you heard it this year. This was going to be the worst hurricane year ever. We've been blessed so far, and we're definitely praying for the people in Pensacola. But I do believe that that we have to. It's completely out of control. Car insurance is up. I don't know if you're experiencing that, but a lot of the people I talk to are concerned about the insurance rates. Besides the fact that groceries, everything else has gone up, it just seems that it's going up, and there's no, and necessarily our salaries aren't going up to do it because whatever I mean, how much can we get paid to be able to pay for some of this stuff?
I never really looked at the car insurance rates. I just built it in until this year.
Right.
I went, holy moly!
Listen, I got teenage kids, so
God bless you. Yeah. Can we put Omar's website up?
Yeah. I do remember, if I could, just real quick.
Course.
Look, I was, when I was talking about the cancer bill, I negotiated to get ultrasounds for our firefighters. The reason I did that was because we were finding that 1 out of 3 firefighters was getting cancer. And in providing that as part of their physical, we were able to catch cancer early on in firefighters, very early on.
And when you catch it early on, what happens?
Right, you're able to address it and live a beautiful, prosperous life. Colon cancer, I recommend everybody go get a colonoscopy done. I'm getting one a week after my election. I'm 52 years old, but I do believe that that's important because that's the preventative side of maintenance, preventative side of medicine that is often missed out. Most of my people who call 911 who are just not feeling well, they've got one of 5 things. They haven't been sleeping well, they're stressed out, they're not drinking enough water, they're not eating right, or they're not exercising. Guaranteed, you got 2 or 3 of those if you're calling 911. And so what I say is I believe that on the preventative side of medicine, we can do a lot of work to make people healthier, feel better, and live a more prosperous life.
When we look at the people that walk into an emergency room,
Mm-hmm.
and when they walk out, they're like, okay, all right,
Mm-hmm.
because they needed that attention. There was something that was there. They didn't know how to get to their doctor in time,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a frustration or it was going to take too long, or it's in the middle of the night and they've now completely freaked out. They're having massive anxiety because of whatever, right?
Anxiety
and people should certainly do that.
Is an issue, yeah.
But to your point, though, if you can catch this stuff a little bit earlier and you call your doctor, this is my suggestion, call your doctor. I need to see you.
Right. Yes.
I do that now.
Right.
I walk in the office.
Okay, but most people don't get that,
I
So
learned that from my brother Grant.
He is a persistent one.
So
that's good.
So I'm sure you've had people in your lives that have been mentors, people
Mm-hmm.
that have helped you along your way, and I think that's important for all of us to recognize that and to honor that. So today, what I'd like you to do is, if you could look into the blue camera right over there, Rochelle's going to. There you go. Why don't you talk to them whether they're with us or not?
Well, my dad has always been a great influence in my life. Very level-headed, very even-keeled kind of person. My mom is the Spitfire in the family. She is a very passionate person who cares for people, and it's always been an inspiration in my life. I'm actually my kids. I'm married to a beautiful woman of 23 years. But my kids also are an inspiration because I get to see, a lot of beautiful things in what they do and the way they see the world, and how we need to make sure we do the right things for them. So, to my parents who have been a gift of God for me, I'm thankful for you every day. And, I do what I do to hopefully make you proud and make my kids and my family proud. So,
Omar,
like I said,
you're the guy, man.
Hey, man.
Congratulations.
Can I say one last thing before you let me go?
Absolutely.
Listen, I'm running for District 115. I'll tell you why. In my world, when you call 911, it doesn't matter whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, black, white, gay, straight, male, female. We're there to help. And that's why I'm running for this district. It's a very diverse district. I've met a lot of beautiful people in passing and knocking on doors. And I think what I hope to bring back is that faith in our government, that we're about representing the people. No matter what your situation is, I will be here to help. And I hope that I can count on your vote on November 5th.
Right. Again, folks, if you want to find out more about Omar, you can go to omarblanco.com and find out about him. You can email him or call him. I'm sure we'll take the call. Again, thank you, Omar, for joining us.
Thank you
And
so
folks,
much.
Thanks for